Hi, my name is Leandro Facchinetti, and let's write some code together, shall we? What we have on the menu today is Notestrator. We are going to continue working on it. It's this app that we have been developing together in the stream. It allows you to draw on top of your computer screen, which is useful for things like streaming, but also education, if you're teaching online or if you're doing presentations, that sort of thing. So I am late. I'm 15 minutes late for this stream today. I'm usually not late. The reason is that I used to use this laptop for streaming, and then I would send the image from this laptop into the stream, and the computer died. It was about to die for a while. It was showing the signs of age. It had sometimes you would open it, it wouldn't boot, and then you had to try a couple hundred times until it actually booted. And then I knew that the computer was about to die, so what I did is every time I worked on it, I treated it as if that was going to be the last time. And I always, like, for instance, I always pushed everything to GitHub as soon as I finished working on it, and I wouldn't have any files that would matter in here. So now the computer actually, I think it died for good. But that's okay, because I knew it was going to die, so I'm just going to, I don't know, try to resell it for parts. But then I have this other computer that I sometimes use for streaming, which is a Windows computer, but it wasn't set up for streaming yet. It didn't even have Node installed. So in this past 15 minutes, I was installing everything and setting up the machine for development. But now that I did that, we can dive into Notestrator Windows this time. So I was planning on doing some things, and we are going to do some other things because we don't have access to the Mac. And I already know that there are some issues on Windows, and I didn't really have the time to investigate how we are going to fix these issues. So we are going to work on whatever we find interesting. So it will be that kind of stream when everything is falling apart. So since yesterday, I did what I promised. I read the docs for both Electron Forge as well as Electron Builder. And if you have not been here yesterday, we started this thread where we want to be able to publish and distribute the application. It's a Notestrator, in case you don't know, is a desktop application written in Electron. So we have to package and create installers and everything. So I was looking into these tools, and we found 3 tools: Electron Builder, Electron Forge, and Electron Packager. And I read some more, and now I can give you a brief summary of what I learned and compare the 3 different tools in more depth. Yesterday in the stream, we were like, reading the docs, reading the README, all over the place, learning about the space. And now I know a little bit more about it. So Electron Packager is a low-level thing, like we learned yesterday. So it takes your Electron application and bundles it with the Electron runtime. That's what it does. It generates things like .apps for macOS and .exes for Windows. But that's low level, because you don't want only to have your app able to run. You also want to sign it. You want to have auto updates. You want to distribute the app using something like GitHub releases. That's what we are going to use if everything runs according to the plan. So there's still more things that you need to do besides just packaging. You have to work around the whole problem of distribution. And that's when Electron Forge comes in. It is so both of these are blessed by Electron. They say that they are the preferred versions of the preferred solutions for this issue. Electron Forge uses Electron Packager, but it gives you facilities for all these other things I mentioned, from auto updates and so forth. And then there is Electron Builder, which is a separate solution. It does not depend on Electron Packager, so it's recreating some of the solutions that the Electron team has already created. But it so happens that it seems like Electron Builder is superior in some aspects, and it definitely is more popular by a huge margin. So we decided to go with Electron Builder yesterday, and from having read the documentation for all the 3 tools, I think that I maintain that. Unless there is something really weird along the way, we're going to use Electron Builder. So Electron Builder also gives you facilities for auto updates, for publishing things to GitHub releases and other places, and all these other things as well. So it gives you all the high-level functionality you would want, but it recreates most of them from scratch. For instance, and most relevantly, the auto update in Electron Builder is different from the thing you would get with Electron Forge, and it does not use the Electron facilities. It comes with its own thing, which, as far as I understand, is actually better, because for you to use auto updates using Electron Forge, you must use this update server that you need to run yourself, or you can run a version that is available for open source projects, which is our case. So we wouldn't run into that issue. We could just use the open source server. But it's one more thing to, it's one more moving part that could go wrong. So having serverless auto updates is kind of a neat thing. And then there is signing. So again, I think that Electron Builder recreates all the efforts for signing the app. But I learned more about signing, and I think I'm not going to sign the app. So here's what I learned. In macOS, the process goes like this. You sign the app, and to be able to sign the app, you have to buy a key or a certificate. And this certificate must be purchased from Apple. It costs $100 a year. There is no third party selling these certificates because they must come from Apple. So you have to pay $100 to Apple to be able to sign the app. And then you have to upload the app to Apple. They're going to run some more tests, and they're going to notarize. So they are going to essentially sign the app on their side. And you have to jump through all these hoops if you don't want to see one of those annoying pop-ups when you try to run the app the first time, telling you that it comes from an unidentified developer, and then you have to go to security and you have to manually enable the app. It's a nightmare. But it's $100 per year, and for an open source app, that sounds expensive. And it sounds wrong, because essentially what signing is doing for the app is verifying that it comes from the source that you would expect. But anyone can pay $100 to Apple and can sign a malicious copy of Notestrator and distribute. And instead of saying this app was signed by Leandro Facchinetti, it's going to say this app was signed by John Doe. But who's going to verify that? Do you verify that when you're running apps? Most times you don't, especially if there is no warnings because the app has been notarized. So then you have, of course, to have your malicious code go through the Apple verification, but I don't think that would be like a nightmare to do. I don't think it would be too hard to do that. Ultimately, you have to trust whoever you are downloading your software from. And I think I'm going to distribute using GitHub releases, so you have to trust GitHub, and ultimately you have to trust me, or you have to go read the source code and compile it yourself. But what is the added security in this process? There isn't a lot. There is not a lot of added security for this $100 per year and the whole annoying process of managing keys and everything. And then there is the story on Windows. It's similar, but it's not a monopoly. So Microsoft does not issue keys as far as I can tell. You have to buy the keys from third parties like GoDaddy or Komodo. And these are not regular TLS keys that you would go to Let's Encrypt and get one for free, because the kind of TLS key that you use when you're doing websites can be just verifying that you control the domain, that you are running that domain. So that's what Let's Encrypt does when you want to have a TLS key. It goes to your domain and checks that you're running it. And you pass a challenge and you proved that you are the owner of the domain, and then you get a TLS key. But then that's not how it works to get a code signing key. It's a similar key. It goes through the public key infrastructure all the same, but it is a different kind of key. It's a different process, and it's a different validation method. You have to prove that you are yourself. So you are not tying the key to a domain, you are tying the key to an identity in the real world. So you have to pay for that because the verification is not automatic. It's actually a human being that is going to verify this. And it costs, again, about $100 an year. And you have to pay these third parties and manage keys. And then if something goes wrong, you would have to revoke the key and pay, I guess, $100 more. And all of that, so check this out. All of that on Windows, if you do all this, you're still going to get warnings the first time you install the app because you have to build trust over time. If you don't want to jump through that hoop, if you don't want your users to see any warnings, you have to go through extended verification, which is only available for companies and big organizations. And then you have to, I don't actually know how you do extended verification, but it sounds like a hassle. Way more work than I'm willing to do for this free open source, very simple, small app that is Notestrator. So, and I get so annoyed by all these warnings, especially because I now understand that they don't give you much security at all. It's much better to have the kind of TLS security to know that I am downloading stuff from GitHub and then just go from there. So all in all, I learned that this is a freaking nightmare, and it got me so annoyed that this is the state of the art in terms of code signing. It seems like people are trying to do something about it. There is this Linux Foundation, Mozilla, Google, and others who are coming up with this service. I forget the name, but they are trying to come up with something like Let's Encrypt, but for code signing. So it's going to be free, possibly, and it is going to extend the security for more people. And then at that point, then it may make sense to like have more strict warnings in the operating system, because then any indie and small developer is still able to sign the app and notarize without having to spend so much money. But then again, even this effort, I think this effort by Google and Mozilla and whatnot, and the Linux Foundation, I think, is in front of all of this. Even then, this is only for signing for Windows, because on macOS there is this monopoly. So this whole story about signing is messed up as far as I can tell. I'm not going to bother with signing. That is my stance for now. We'll see. Okay, so I learned about the differences between the packaging tools, and I liked Builder because it's more popular, because it is serverless updates, because it is less intrusive. When we played with the Forge, Electron Forge, it would take over this package JSON here, and it introduced a lot of development dependencies. But ElectronBuilder is just one extra dependency. It does not take over everything. It is just concerned with packaging. It doesn't try to give you a hand throughout the whole development process. It doesn't take over, for instance, this part, which is starting the app, which I guess is a smart move, because there is one extra issue that we don't currently have in our app, but we may have in the near future, which is native modules. These are dependencies written in C and C++. And Electron comes with its own node. It bundles its own version of Nodejs. So in that case, when you're using native dependencies written in C and C++ in Electron, you have to recompile them for Electron. And in many cases, the dependency already is compiled. You can just get a pre-built binary, and that's okay. But in many cases, you have to compile it yourself. So there is this problem. And both Electron Forge and Builder solve this. Electron Packager does not. As I said, it's a lower level thing just for packaging. But both Forge and Builder do this. They recompile stuff for you. The difference is that, as far as I can tell, Electron Forge takes over the start script because it's going to check for these dependencies every time you run the app. While Electron Builder, it only does that when you have to specify a post-install script. So only when you are installing the dependency, you will trigger ElectronBuilder to do the build for Electron. But then that's it. When you're running the app, you just say Electron, which is faster. We determined that yesterday. So I think that the ElectronBuilder strategy is smarter here. So put all that put together, I think that ElectronBuilder is going to be our guy. So what we have on the menu today, what the plan for today is to see what is the state of the app on Windows. Ideally, I would like to have Notestrator work on Windows, and what a perfect opportunity now that my Mac died. Bo says, I'm at work, so just popping in to say hi. Hi, Bo. It's nice to have you here. In case you are interested in learning about Electron and the state of the art in terms of packaging and signing desktop apps, you are in the right place. So yeah, as I was saying, the plan for today is to... What is that emoji? Is that washing hands? Is that clapping? What is that emoji? Yeah, so the plan is to see what's the state of the app in Windows. Ideally, it would work on Windows. We'll see. Last time we tried, it wasn't working on Windows, so we'll try to see how that is going. And then we will see if the packaging is working, because the problem we had last time was that I wasn't able to draw, but the app actually started and I saw the menu and everything. So, oh, it's clapping hands. It doesn't look like clapping hands. It looks like washing hands. That's a great emoji. All right, so yeah. So we are going to see what the app looks like on Windows right now, and we'll see if the packaging thing with Electron Builder is working. And then we may continue to style the menu, or we may do some things that I already know we need to do for distributing the app. So for now, we have this huge hack to develop the front-end parts, the HTML part of the app, using these dependencies. And then we're feeding that HTML into the Electron app using a data URI. So it's a huge hack. We have to get rid of this for two reasons. First, it slows down the startup of the app because you have to compile the CSS and HTML when you're starting up. But also, it makes the app bigger. The bundle size is bigger. The app is already 200 megabytes when we packaged it yesterday, which is like huge for such a simple app. And I know that Electron apps are big, but I'm talking about 200 megabytes for a draw on top of your computer screen stuff. So it shouldn't be 200 megabytes. And if we cut down on this on this production dependencies, then the bundle size will be smaller. I don't know by how much, but it will be smaller. And then I have this idea already of how I want to do this, and this is going to transform this production dependencies into development dependencies. We are only going to ship the already generated, the cached HTML produced with these things, and then it will speed up the startup, and it will be smaller to distribute, which is always great. Okay, so if you feel like coding in MQL5, I'm all ears. Maybe they're washing hands. I meant to say clapping ones. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the emoji looks different to you. I know that emoji is platform specific. So what is MQL5? Automated Forex trading strategy tester. I don't think that's what you have in mind. Yeah, I don't know what that is. But I'm interested. What is MQL5? All right, so let's actually write some code here. Well, first of all, I installed Nodejs on this machine 5 minutes ago, but I did not install the dependencies for the app. So let's start by doing that, which will take a while because it has to download a lot of stuff. Electron has to download its own version of Node and its own version of V8 and its own version of Chromium. So that is MQL5. Is that what you do for work? Is that your day job? Yeah. Do you work on automated trading? That's interesting. Huh? All right. See you later, Bo. Okay. Okay. Yeah, everything is installed and I should be able to start the app. Let's see what comes out. Last time the drawing screen was completely white and I couldn't actually draw, but the menu would show up. This time, I don't think anything is starting up. Maybe it's just being slow. Oh, it was being slow. Okay, so same situation as before, actually. We are not able to draw and we kind of interact with the application underneath. The cursor changes and everything. And then this is showing up correctly. And of course, we need to resize stuff so it doesn't scroll. And it's so funny that because of this scroll bar, then there is a horizontal scroll bar because the window is too narrow for this vertical scroll bar to appear. So we have to figure that out. And the keyboard shortcuts are not working either. And this is here, but it shouldn't. It's not, in macOS it doesn't appear here. But it is here, all right. And I can interact with that. And I cannot interact with the menu, which is interesting, because I can drag it around, but I cannot click on the buttons. And can I quit the app from here? Yes, that works. And I was interacting with the application underneath. This was me trying to use keyboard shortcuts. So the state of the app on Windows is, it is broken. Now, we decided that we have two branches. We have the Builder and the Forge branches. And we decided, oh, okay, so Bo says, no, that's not what I do for work, but I want to learn it and code my own indicators. Oh, okay. That's a hobby that I was not expecting from you. Okay, but yeah. We are going to delete the Forge branch and proceed with the Builder branch. So let me go to the Forge branch and actually delete it. Well, I don't actually need to check it out. I can just go to main and delete Forge and push origin delete Forge, and then I can check out. No, I don't need to check it out. I can just merge Builder. Yeah, that's what I mean. Oh, yeah. New machine, I have to configure stuff. That's all right. Oh, now that I think about it, Bo, it actually makes sense that you have this as a hobby. You were talking about a whole moving average when we were talking about EQs, and I believe that comes from stock markets. I think that's something that you could use to work with that kind of data, right? And maybe you could code your own indicators using that, but I have no idea. I don't know much about finance. Okay, so I think I am in a good state. Yep, and then let me see all my branches. Builder is still available on the remote. What is my situation in terms of branches here? Did the merge work? No, it did not work. So again, merge origin builder. Now that I have configured my name, it will merge, and then I can delete builder. Now that I did all that, I can refresh this page and you will see no more branches, just the main branch. And here on package.json, I have some stuff from ElectronBuilder. Okay. What do I want to do next? I guess I will quickly go over this metadata that I know I will need. And then we can talk about the change I know I want to make these dependencies go to dev dependencies. Not all of them, but these definitely. These two definitely go there. All right, so I learned some things about the metadata. It seems like this name needs to be something that could go into npm as a package, so it needs to be lowercase and no spaces and no nothing. Hang in there, I'll be right back. I'm back. Okay, so no name. I have a bad case of allergies and I don't want to like sneeze on your ears. I'll be right. It's funny that later when I watch the streams, I know that I'm about to sneeze, so I can see my sneezing face, and then I come back from the I will be right back screen, and I can see that my nose is a little bit red. But sneezing is not normal. I never sneeze. If you know that, you know that. All right, so name is a name that needs to be all lowercase, no spaces, no nothing. But then there is this product name. And that's where you put the name that you would people to actually see. And in our case, it's going to be very similar, but I want it at least to be capitalized. And you can tell that I'm not on my usual machine because I have fat fingers here. Notestrator. I have this Windows PC mostly for testing stuff. I don't actually use it as my main driver. So product name, description, draw on top of your computer screen, and your OBS streams. And we'll probably have an infinite canvas situation going on, but that's for later. That's good for now. Version is okay, author is okay. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm going to copy stuff from another project because I know don't even have to clone the other project. Let's just go to something like Kasha. Let's go to Kasha. That's always a good one. And then in here, you can copy and paste some of these guys. So name, version, description, main. Yeah, so that's something I want to change. I want this to be index.js just because I think it works better. It's like a convention. All right, so index.js. And what else do we have here? I don't think I will have a binary for this one. Not a command line binary anyway. And then no types because this is not a library. Then repository, that could be a good one. And it doesn't hurt to have all of these in the same order, right? So let's see this side by side. So name and product name, that's a Electron special thing. And description, then main. Then bin, then types, then repository. In terms of keywords, what do we want for keywords? Drawing, OBS, note taking, and Electron. And because I am not publishing this to NPM, I don't think that these keywords matter at all. But maybe the packagers are going to use the keywords for whatever. So just have them there. And then in terms of author, I got this right. the format, I mean. In terms of license and bugs and homepage, we are gonna do the same as Kasha. And if you're interested, we are doing MIT. Yes, that is already a file that exists in the repository, right? Yes, we are doing MIT. Then version goes way up there, right after the name. And then we have our, oh, I have to rename some things, right? I have to rename Kasha to Notestrator. Then we have our scripts and dependencies and dev dependencies, and then some extra miscellaneous configuration. Excellent. Now, in terms of our scripts, I think that we are gonna go like this. That's all right. What happens if I just run Electron? Do I need a dot? If I just say npx electron, what does it try to do? It complains. Oh, it runs a default app. And that's cool. And here is Forge. They really try to push you to use Forge. I wonder why the community decided that they would go with something else instead. Okay, so we do need a dot here, and Electron Builder will do its thing. I don't think I want to call this dist. I think I'll call it build. I mean, it is building, right? And then everything else still makes sense for now. Let's see if npm start is still working. Yeah, and it's faster this time. Maybe it had to download something extra the first time. Okay. Let's see if packaging works. Electron Builder is not recognized as an internal or external command. Operable program or batch file. But Electron Builder is a dev dependency. Oh, but I think I npm installed before I switched branches. So I have to npm install this guy. Yeah, I think that's what this is. Second try. Yeah, this is gonna go through. Okay, so let's read the outputs. Electron Builder, that version, that operating system, is that what it is? I think it is. Yeah, it's like Windows 10. That's what I'm running, and then this is the build version. Loaded configuration from my package JSON build field, which is here. Writing effective configuration at this location. We looked at this yesterday, it's just some metadata. Then it's packaging for Windows, Intel, using the right version of Electron. And it's going to put this here. Then it's downloading the base Electron stuff. And it finished downloading. So now it's putting my app in there. I don't have an icon yet. And then it's downloading some stuff to try to sign the code for Windows. We decided that we are not doing that because we don't want to pay for the certificates, but it's downloading the stuff to be able to do that anyway. So it's generating an installer. So I'm sorry, but I don't exactly know how to pronounce your name, but I think it's Saxena. Says hey, 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 and I say back, hey, great to have you here. So yeah, it's downloading a bunch of things that it didn't download on Mac because it's generating an installer. And then it's building a block map, which is this super cool thing we learned about yesterday that allows you to do updates by, I guess, just diffing your currently installed thing with the latest version. I think that's what this is. I don't know. All right, so what do we have on the dist folder? We have a setup and we have, oh, okay. So this is super interesting. It's different from Mac. This is, on Mac we had a .app in here, which is a folder. A .app is just a folder with a specific format. But Windows doesn't have anything like that, and .exe is a binary. It's an opaque thing. So what Electron is doing is it is first putting everything in place as if this was a .app essentially. And then it has a lot of things in here. It has the Notestrator app, yeah, all right. But it also has things like FFmpeg, which yesterday we learned is actually part of Electron. And I don't know actually why, but it's there. And Saxena says, what language is this? JavaScript. We are writing an Electron app. And I'm not actually using a lot of JavaScript right now. I am doing the packaging and configuration stuff, but we are going to dive into JavaScript in a few moments. So yeah, we're just now looking at what ElectronBuilder produced to build our app. So it puts all these files in place, and I believe if I try to run Notestrator.exe, it will run. But then there is also this setup stuff, which I think is the installer. Yeah, let's look at this in there. So let me go to my code folder, Notestrator. Just okay, a single question which is hitting my mind hardly. Go ahead, ask away. So Notestrator, if I just run it, I think it will just run. Yep, and it's even faster than running on the command line, I think, but by a small margin. So we can quit that. And then here, I think is an installer. Isn't that cool? Oh, it installed and started running. So I thought it would give me one of those next finishes thing, but no, it just installed. Where did it install the thing? I have no idea. Maybe under program files? Is it here? Yes, it is. Isn't that cool? Where is this? Where is this file? I think it's gonna be under program files. How do I check this? Open file location. I guess that's how you check this. No, that's a link. Open file location. App data local programs Notestrator. Okay, so it's not under program files, but it kind of unpacked essentially the directory that we had here under dist. The win unpacked stuff looks a lot like what we have over here. And what happens if I uninstall? Does it even show up on, I think it's control panel? Uninstall a program. Does it show up here? Yeah, here is our oh, and it has the name and everything. It picked up the name from the author and the version and everything. That's all right. So if I uninstall this, what happens with that folder? It goes away. And here is another program that I know uses Electron, Belena Etcher. And yeah, it's a similar structure. All right, so now we know how this works. It's not that we need to know how this works, but it's always helpful to understand the tools you're using. So I think it's productive that we went through this. All right. So you have a question, Ionic or Flutter? My answer is I don't know either. Well, I actually know Flutter. I know what it is, but I have never used it. What is Ionic? I have heard of this name. Yeah, cross-platform using things like React. I cannot give you a informed opinion because I have not worked with either one. I know what Flutter is. I know that it's a cross-platform thing based on Dart. And Ionic seems to be JavaScript because it is talking about all these JavaScript frameworks. So yeah, it says move faster, running everything with JavaScript and the web. So it seems like this is JavaScript based, while Flutter is based on Dart, which is a different language that compiles to JavaScript, but I think also compiles to native things. So I don't know. I have never worked with them, and I must admit that I hate apps. I hate cell phones in general as a concept. I think they're addictive. I think they're harmful. I hate the app stores. I think they are a huge monopoly. I hate the platform. I hate that you have to go through the app stores to be able to install stuff. I hate that many apps don't have to be apps. They could as well just be websites, but they force apps down your throat. And I just absolutely hate it as a platform. And I do anything in my ability to develop for the web. I love the web. The web has been around forever. Since I was born, there was the web. I love the web. I think it's a great platform. It is capable of so much if the big monopolies don't try to break the web like Apple does again and again. Things like IndexedDB not really working in iOS, and then are working but with hacks, and then you are not able to send notifications if you are a web app in iOS. I think it's just a whole thing that it's just so messed up. So in any case, I really hope that I never have to develop for phones. I hate using them. I hate having them. I have one now. I didn't have a phone for 6 years. I was so happy back then. Having a phone is a nightmare. I hate developing for phones. I hope I never have to do that. So yeah, I'll close Ionic, I'll close Flutter, and I hope that I'll never look at them again. But I love the desktop when it makes sense. I would not build an Electron app I would not build an Electron app for something like Slack, if you know what I mean. Slack is a web app. It doesn't have to have a desktop app. But for something like Visual Studio Code, it makes a lot of sense. And for drawing on top of your computer screen, it's not something you can go to a website and do. You have to install an app. So I think it makes sense. And I love that Electron is there so I can, using my web development skills, develop for the desktop. And if Ionic lets you transfer your web development skills into mobile, I guess similar to what React Native does, then it's all good. Especially if you don't have to use React or Vue or whatever. I can use Electron without any of these frameworks, and I'm much happier because I can do that. I don't like having to use React to be able to do something like React Native. So if Ionic can give me a plain vanilla JavaScript HTML CSS thing to do a mobile app, I think that's superior, because then you don't have to learn Dart, and there is a bigger community, more libraries you can probably be able to use. So probably Ionic is better because it's JavaScript as opposed to Flutter, but I don't know, maybe Flutter has a great story about interoperability and you can use JavaScript libraries and you can use something like HTML and CSS to do the visual aspect of the app. And that's huge. I love being able to just write HTML and CSS to do a desktop app. That was a tangent. It was a huge rant. It was just me complaining about the state of things. And I know I'm going to lose this battle, by the way. I know that the desktop is dying, and even laptops are dying. I still have a desktop and I love it, but I think that desktops are on their way out, except for like people who work with video. And the laptops are also on their way out. I know that the phone is winning, and it has already won. And I know that the app stores are huge when compared to the web as a platform. But I hate the monoculture, and I hope I'll never be a part of it. Yeah, Ionic gives you HTML, CSS, and TypeScript. Can also use JavaScript. So just by that virtue, I think it will win, if it is a competition at all. The same with Electron and other things like Qt, and you know what I mean. And even other things like people tried to do Flash back in the day. They tried to do Java, but no, JavaScript always wins. It's there, and everyone knows how to write JavaScript. And that's exactly the point of the language. Desktop is only for streaming and gaming for now. Yeah, I think it is. I do things with video and audio, and so I enjoy being on desktop. But I know it's on its way out, and I know I will have to install all the goddamn apps at some point. Okay, what are we doing? Yeah, so I know that I want to do something different here in terms of this hack. So let me first explain the hack and what I'm planning on doing to fix it. The hack is like this. The way I write my HTML and CSS for the interface is with some libraries that I wrote that allow me to write HTML right into my JavaScript. So as soon as the app is starting up, it will compile the HTML and the CSS. And even the client-side JavaScript, and by client-side JavaScript, I mean the JavaScript that runs in the browser window as opposed to being the JavaScript that runs your Electron app, the thing that controls the windows and everything. So all of this happens when the app is starting up, which is nonsensical. And then the fun thing is that to be able to load this, Electron doesn't allow you to load an HTML string. It allows you to load an URL that supposedly would point at a file either on the web or on your computer. But then what I do is I subvert this and I create this thing called a data URL that is like a URL for all intents and purposes, but it contains data right then and there. It doesn't point to a file or to a server on the web. It's just the material right there, the HTML right in there. And all of this makes a lot of sense when you're prototyping something, but it doesn't make sense for distributing this, because then I need to ship all my libraries for creating HTML and JavaScript and CSS. So I have to ship all these libraries, and it becomes bloated and slows up the startup. So what we are going to do is we are going to produce this HTML and CSS as plain files on the file system. So in effect, it becomes like a static website generator of sorts, and we are only going to do that in development. And another thing I'm interested in doing, and maybe this second thing it needs to come first. We'll see. I'm pretty confident it needs to come first. I think it was yesterday or the day before that, we came up with this super cool hack to break the way Electron is supposed to work. There is supposed to be the separation of processes, and then you're supposed to talk between the processes using inter-process communication. But then it becomes annoying. It becomes so annoying that you have to have your code is separated. Part of your code about a feature has to go into a renderer process, and part of your code needs to go into the main process. It's the separation I don't like. So we came up with this thing we came up with this message called execute JavaScript that essentially is evaling the code. So it runs eval essentially, but it runs eval in the context that you need. So what we have to do is this thing here, this 10 lines of code break the architecture of Electron and how the processes were supposed to be separated. So what I want to do is to take these 10 lines of code and expand on them, make them work for all the features in the app. Currently, it's only supporting a single feature actually, but we will have to expand this to support more features, because I think that we are now pulling a trick here that will not fly. We have this trick will not fly when I try to make the static website thing. The trick that we have here is I'm writing my HTML and then I escape back into JavaScript, which is running in an Electron land, and then I put some event handlers. But this is not gonna fly, right? So I have to, yeah, this is not going to work out because when I'm doing the static website generation thing, I won't have access to the Electron APIs. So instead, I'm just going to, instead of sending this event, I'm going to send, or I guess I'm going to probably invoke my execute JavaScript event. I think that's what we are going to do. And then we'll have to do this transformation. It's essentially a re-architecture in the whole app before we are able to do the other re-architecture that is necessary for performance and even correctness, I guess. Okay. Saxena says, okay, I wasted your valuable time, now you can continue. No, that's exactly why I am streaming instead of writing code by myself, is so that we can have these conversations, and I appreciate having that. So thanks for being here. And for the tangents, if you have more tangents, then go ahead. You can see that I'm happy to rant about stuff. Okay, so yeah, I guess we need to do the second refactoring first to unlock the thing. So let's see what we have here in terms of the backlog. I also pasted these notes about packaging that we were writing yesterday. I pasted them on the README, which is a good thing because if they stayed just here, they would have died with the machine. Ah, piece of junk. In any case, so I did this renaming. And then these are all just notes. And I think I want this line as well, so we can give this a try. So I talked about an hour ago, I guess, I talked about how native dependencies need to be recompiled. And we don't have any native dependencies, but I suppose we can just run this and we'll see if it will work. Oh, I have to say npx for that to be picked up. All right, so it worked. And it didn't try to install any native dependencies because I don't have any. But that's all right. And I want that to happen in post install. So I am going to write this hook for Electron Builder to be called on post install. I guess it makes more sense to have this in this order, right? Probably like this. Well, I could go in chronological order. Like first when you post install, then you start, then you build, or I could go in order of relevance. The person reading this is probably more interested in the start script, but I think chronological order makes sense. Saxena says, you're a really nice guy. You are a really nice guy. Or Gal. Or, yeah. You are a really nice person. That's what I mean. Okay. So this is just a hook. When I npm install stuff, Electron Builder will jump in and say, oh, I can recompile for you. And it will not do it on every start as Electron Forge would have done. Yeah, but I was on the README because I wanted to take notes. So I think that most of this is already in place. And then that is in place as well. And then code signing, I kind of read, but I'll clean this up later. I may write some notes about packaging and signing with the conclusions of these streams and my exploration when I was reading yesterday evening. But what I really want to put here into the backlog is use the execute JavaScript event throughout the app so that I can only build the HTML and CSS and client side JavaScript in development. Thanks for subscribing, Saxena. I am here every day of the week at 5:30 UTC, and the schedule goes like this, by the way. On Mondays, Thursdays, and Fridays, for instance today, I write code, usually in JavaScript, in something interesting about web development. I am now working on this Electron app, but I have also worked, I guess last week, on this library that, given any topic, would go to Wikipedia, read the topics, train some data, and then use a Markov chain to generate random sentences on that topic. So it kind of looks like something that someone would say on that topic using the same vocabulary and everything. That is useful for testing. And I sometimes also do stuff based on audio. I like recording stuff and audio effects and that sort of thing. So on Tuesdays, I usually don't stream here. I stream over at IDQD Sound, which is Arya's channel. Arya is this other streamer and YouTuber, and he is learning how to write code, and I am trying to teach him, but mostly I am just showing him stuff, and he is learning on his own. He's great like that. In any case, Tuesdays, coding over at IDQD Sound, and we do audio mostly. So we do EQs and compressors and that sort of thing. So we are writing code for audio processing in real time, which is super cool. And then on Wednesdays, Arya from IDQD Sound comes over here to my channel every Wednesday, and we do something with audio. I try to record, and he is a specialist in recording stuff and audio production, music production. So I'm learning from him. On Wednesday, I am the student. I learn how to record stuff, and we have been recording guitars, and I think we'll record something like vocals maybe next week, and it will be fun. And we talk about microphone placement, we talk about technique. If you are into that sort of thing, we talk about streaming and video stuff as well. If you're into that, then come here on Wednesdays. But that's not today. Today's a Friday. We are writing code. So that's the plan. We want to do these things in this order. So I guess at this point, let's just look at every situation where we are using IPC Main. There are 11 of these instances, and IPC Renderer, there are 19. So I propose that we start with IPC Main. Yeah. So here's one of those cases where I am. Oh, before I even do that, I have to revisit my implementation of execute JavaScript, because here's how it works. It receives, so IPC is this, it stands for inter-process communication. It is this way for different processes on my app to send messages to one another. So when I run my app, there is the main process. It is like the browser window. We can think of it like a browser window. That's a process. And then there are the contents of the tabs, which are like the browser windows, as opposed to the main process. They are also called the renderer process because they actually render stuff to the screen. So I have all these processes going on, and they're separate processes at the operating system level, but they have to sometimes communicate. When I click a button, I have to do something to another window, something like that. And I have two windows, the drawing window and the menu window, and you're not able to see the drawing window because my computer died, and this was a Mac, the Mac died. So on my PC, the app doesn't really work on Windows. So I cannot really show you the app working, which is kind of interesting because I won't really be able to test that I'm refactoring things the right way, but it's all right. So processes need to communicate, and then the way it was supposed to work is you were supposed to send messages and then have code that would interpret the messages. For instance, here. I receive this settings message, and then I do something on the main process. But I decided that this isn't good for me. I prefer to lower the barriers between the processes and just run stuff whenever I want, whatever I want. So I came up with this event called execute JavaScript, which is pretty much like eval. You give it some code as text, as a string, it will run that code for you. And right now, I receive the event on the main process, so that's the browser window. Sorry, it's like the Chrome around the browser. Not to be confused with Google Chrome, but it's also Google Chrome. And then I receive this event, and then I receive two parameters, the browser window where I want to run this, and then some JavaScript to actually run. So from my drawing window, I can send stuff to my menu and vice versa. But I want to augment this because I want to be able to execute JavaScript at the main process as well. So I guess I should rename this because it's no longer just execute JavaScript. It's more like eval. And then it is not just a browser window. So I have to rename this as well. It is probably like the target of where I want to run this. And then let's look for eval and change those places. Yep, that's right. And I did all this because I don't want to support only my target, only my drawing and menu. I also want to support the main process. So I will how do I want to write this? I guess I'm going to write it like this. So switch on the target. Nah, I'm just going to write an if my target is main for main process. I just, honest to goodness, just return eval of my JavaScript. And bam, there you go. The thing that you are never supposed to do, I just did it. And I did for the world to see. And I don't give a fuck. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna go with a switch case here. And then case drawing. And case menu, that's my menu window. This doesn't look as smart, but it's much more straightforward. You look at this and you know what it's doing, and I prefer it that way. And then a default of throw new error, oops, fat fingers, different computer. So fail to eval with target. And if I do things right, I will never run into this. Yeah, this is very straightforward. Just execute, just eval the JavaScript. Why you don't try playing games on streaming on Friday? You will get more viewers. Yeah. The things that I do here are very niche. I do things like programming for real-time audio processing. And just programming in general is way more niche than coding, than gaming. And I do like playing games, don't get me wrong. But it is way more niche. So I know that this channel will be small and it will never be a big channel. I mean, maybe in the future, maybe 10 years from now, I do have a long-term plan for this channel. I think I will be around for 10 years from now. Probably not every day of the week, but I will be around 10 years from now. I want to take this long term. So maybe in 10 years I could be as big as the coding train with 1 million subscribers, but I don't really look at that like that is exactly my goal. If I have 1,000 subscribers, but they like you all, and Bo, who was here before, or maybe is still around, I don't know, but they show up and they say intelligent things and they are fun people to hang out with, and I have 1,000 subscribers 1 year from now, it's okay. Currently my channel is growing like 1 subscriber every 2 days, and by any standard that is awful, but this channel brings me a lot of joy. It has actually brought me new ideas in terms of coding. I have learned from people that I collaborate with in the streams. And also it has brought me a couple jobs, so I already made money from the channel. And that's more than most people who are gaming can say. I mean, they spend a lot of money with equipment and I never see any of it back. In any case, I'm not planning on being big and getting more subscribers. I don't necessarily am looking for more viewers, more subscribers, more channels, more collaborations. No, I already have more on my plate than I can take. I'm already planning collaborations with other people, and even Arya from IDDQD Sound, it's great to have met him, and Bo and other people in the community. So a small, tightly knit, niche community talking about nerdy, weird topics. I think it's fun. That's my jam. And maybe I will play some game in this stream. Why not? But yeah, I'm not doing it for the viewers. Of course, I think about the viewers. If I see that there is a topic that is not interesting for programming, I will do it on some other time. I will write the program some other time. But I think that something like Electron is super interesting, and people who are new to the community and Electron, they may find these streams, they may find it useful. They may not find these streams. And that may be a thing to think about, right? I could get more viewers so I can help more people. It's just one of those things. I prefer to grow slowly. 1 subscriber every 2 days. Good enough for now. We'll see. But thanks for the suggestion. It's a nice idea. I like watching people play games on streams, but I've never thought about actually doing it myself. Okay, so eval is supposed to be working, but it's really hard to test. I cannot even click on stuff on my app on Windows, which is ridiculous. I don't know why it's that way. Oh, you know what could be fun? Maybe for testing. So I'm going to commit what I have here. But you know what could be fun for testing is I could try to not do the crazy thing of the window being transparent and on top of your computer screen. I could just have a good old browser window, a very simple one. And then I think it will work even on Windows. So for instance, here my drawing window has a bunch of magic going on. So it has, I even noted last time I tried this on Windows, the things that break on Windows. So if I do it like this, there is a chance that just by doing this, the app will now sort of work, and at least I can test that the things that I'm doing are not breaking everything. Yep, so now I can draw. And I can click on buttons. Hopefully, no, I cannot click on buttons, but at least I can draw. And I can send keyboard shortcuts. That's better. But then when I send keyboard shortcuts, does it work? That's so weird. I send a keyboard shortcut. The custom cursor changes. You can see that the color is changing, right? You can see that on the stream. But then when I try to draw, the first time doesn't really work, and then the second time works, but then this time it worked the first try. It's absolutely crazy. And I cannot switch to tools, but I can use the keyboard shortcuts for that. Does fade work? All right, fade is working. And then can I hide stuff? Okay, I can hide stuff, but this window doesn't go away. And it should go away. So yeah, all in all, it's kind of broken overall, but at least with these changes I can test that I'm not breaking stuff. So let's again find our IPC main. So these are all the places where I am receiving events on the main process and I'm doing stuff. And in this case, you can see that it's actually sending a settings event. So it's just forwarding the event over to the drawing window. And here I am in the menu. So I am in the menu trying to send stuff to the drawing window. So here's what I can do instead. I can just send, instead of sending the settings event, what I can do is send the eval event, right? So let's even consider what this is doing. So what this is doing is when I change something like the color, it will change the settings on the drawing window to change things like the custom cursor. Here, check this out. If I comment this out, then the event will be sent, but the main process will just drop it on the floor. And then I will not be able to change my colors with the keyboard shortcuts. I mean, I will change and then they will change here, but they will not change the custom cursor. See? Yep, doesn't change the custom cursor. So, how do I quit my app? Like this. So, now we have everything in place and I can say instead of sending the settings event, send the eval event, and the eval event needs to receive 2 arguments. The target and the JavaScript. What is my target? My target is my menu. No, my target is my drawing window. And then the JavaScript that I want to run will be way in the beginning under the settings event. So the thing that happens here is okay, I take care of the thing I'm thinking about in a moment. But the JavaScript that I want to run is a string. And now this string is client-side JavaScript that will be executed on the drawing window. So in there, I can say document query selector of my drawing. And then that has a settings attribute that I can set to this, except that I need to interpolate. So check this out. This is really crazy. I have this string going on, and I have to interpolate this. So at this point, this part of the code is running on my menu. And on my menu, I can escape to JavaScript on the menu. And in there, I can JSON serialize this. I wonder how URL search params are serialized. Maybe I can just JSON serialize without object from entries. Let's check this out. If I come to the console and say Q is my new URL search params based on this object. What is Q? That's not how you initialize URL search params, is it? But I can always append b maps to 2 like that, and then my Q will have some parameters in there. Oh, still doesn't have anything. I bet that there is something in there. How does JSON stringify react to Q? Empty object. What if I object from entries Q? Then it works. Oh, and it actually worked this first time. So yeah, I have to say object from entries, and it's not JSON serialize, it's stringify. Like that. So this is crazy stuff. I have here some Electron code that is generating HTML. I escape back to Electron and I generate this JavaScript, and I don't think I have to do it. I can do this. Oh, I'll probably have to delete this line, so I'm just going to go ahead and delete those lines. And over here, I can delete these lines. And then I can take this JavaScript stuff okay. Let me format the code. Then I can explain and make sense of what this looks like. So I have here on the top some Electron code written in JavaScript that produces HTML. In the HTML, I embed some JavaScript. So this is client-side JavaScript that will run on the browser window, on the HTML part. So this is running on the menu, and then on the menu, I'm sending a message to the main process, and I think I am doing it wrong. I don't think I should use send. I think I should use invoke. I'm right. So I'll use invoke. And then I invoke this on the main process, targeting the drawing window. So I'm trying to send an event to the drawing window with my JavaScript that reads. So this is JavaScript that will run in the drawing window. What do I want to do there? I want to get a hold of my drawing element and set its settings. But what do I want to set it to? I want to then at this point escape back to where? To the JavaScript running on the menu. And then I JSON stringify my my form, which has all my settings, and I send that. So this will produce this JSON stringify will produce a string that represents this object. So I have effectively serialized this object, and then I assign it to settings. If this works, then my custom cursor will work again. And it did not work. But you know what's crazy? It is updating the settings because it is changing the colors. So maybe there is someone else listening for the settings. And yes, there is someone else listening for the settings event. Who is listening for that? The custom cursor itself. So how about I define a function? This dot update will be a function that does this. And then it receives the settings, right? It used to receive the settings, so it receives the settings. And then we need to find again where we were evolving stuff. And now we need to expand on this. So my settings are this crazy thing. And then over here, I update my settings. Just extracting a variable. And then I also drawing query selector cursor. That was the name of the class in case you missed that. And then I invoke my update with my settings. And it doesn't work. Did I make some obvious mistake here? Now the funny thing is that it's updating the drawing settings when I actually draw. The color is different, so that's all right. Maybe I got the cursor wrong. No, this is the cursor, and then it should have an update method to which I pass the settings, which is this object. Let's work through the process and see if where this could be going wrong. So I'm going to start with the basics and alert from here. And I'm going to trace the process through. Okay, so that executes. I can draw and stuff. Then from the drawing window, I will alert from drawing. From drawing. Excellent. And when I use the keyboard shortcuts to change the menu stuff, it is not sending that event again. That doesn't sound correct. I mean, this should have been called anytime I change the settings. Oh, that is so odd. Now my keyboard shortcuts don't work anymore. This is broken. Next step is probably to call the web inspectors and look at the console and see the error messages, but all of that seems like too much work for now. So instead, I'm going to commit what I have, even though it's kind of broken. But let's review what we have, commit, and call it a day. So what I changed is this stuff so it is less broken on Windows. I removed this because I have inverted the notion here of what needs to happen. Then this update is a new method, so I'm now no longer listening for the event. I'm defining a method that needs to be called. But the syntax of this seems correct. And then over here, I am changing a lot of things. I'm no longer using IPC Main. That's the major point I'm trying to make. Oh, I think I know what may be happening. Yeah. The thing about this invoke thing is that it expects a return, so if this tries to return something, then the browser will try to serialize this, and that will fail, and it will blow up in different ways. But it usually blows up on the command line. And it did blow up on the command line. Just because my window is not transparent, I don't get to see it. But yeah, I think that's what happened, but I'll debug this later. Yeah, so I'll just leave something like this is broken. And I guess I will leave it here so it runs when you start the app, and then it becomes very obvious that this is a work in progress. This is broken. And I'll search for this and I'll fix it on Monday. So all of this code actually seems all right. So maybe all we have to do is just return something else, but we'll see. And then we close. So the syntax of this seems appropriate because this parenthesis closes that and that closes this, and that seems all right. Okay, so all of this looks good to me. Let's commit what we have, whatever that is, and push, because who knows, maybe this computer will die too. Let's hope not. In any case, thank you all for being here, for watching, for subscribing to the channel, for supporting me on PayPal and Patreon. I see you all back on Monday, and we'll continue working on this. Either if I can resurrect this, we'll work on something like maybe styling the menu, whatever. Or if this computer really is dead and doesn't come back from the dead, we'll continue working on Windows, and we'll figure out all this eval stuff, and maybe even figure out why the transparent window isn't working. And the packaging stuff, we also have to do more work on that. And anyway, there are plenty of things to do, but enjoy your weekend. I see you back on Monday at 5:30 UTC. Thanks for being here. Bye.